Healing. The art of making someone feel better. This can be very important out on the battlefield when everyone's getting stabbed and dying. Healing can be an incredibly powerful resource if used on the right target at the right time. So sorry peasant mob, no healing for you. So quite simply, we're going to talk about healing spells, how to use them, where and why, and on whom. So the simplest way to bring magic along in your army is to bring a healing hero. These usually come in the form of a cheeky wizard who will probably be crap in melee and need protection as he is quite squishy. He will come with the Law of Life spellbook, where you'll find Earthblood, which is one of our main healing spells and one of the best, along with a bunch of other buffs, debuffs and damage spells, and then Regrowth, which is another healing spell. And these will replenish the hit points of combatants, so it'll give them life back basically. And it's worth noting that these healing spells, abilities and units are mostly on the good guy factions. The High Elves, the Empire, the Lizardmen, Bretonnia, the Wood Elves, and then it's the bad guys who don't get healing. The Beastmen, the Chaos, the Skaven, the Greenskins, the Dark Elves, with the exception of the Vampires and the Tomb Kings who do get some forms of healing. So if you're new to the game and you're looking for a basic way to get started with healing, look for your Law of Life wizard. It's the Jade Wizard in the case of the Empire, and then what we want to do is only take these 2 healing spells. Don't worry about the rest, just get rid of these to save money, put the money elsewhere for the Empire, and just bring these 2 healing spells, and that should be all you need for now. This is also good if you're struggling with micro and you're not really sure where to use your magic. Just using healing is a very simple and effective way to use it up. And these 2 spells are quite different. Earthblood can be cast on multiple units and doesn't cost very much in terms of magic, where Regrowth is only for 1 unit and it costs quite a lot, but it does give them plus vigor. Some might even say not to bring Regrowth because it's too expensive, and Earthblood is much better because it can do multiple units. So let's just go over the basics. We've got some Homemasters here and they've taken a little bit of a beating. We want to heal them up. If we check out their unit card, you can see the green bar represents their health, of course. It tells you how many hit points they have left of their maximum health. And then next to that, you'll see a little blood droplet with a white cross in it. This tells you how much regeneration the unit has left, because there is a limit to how much healing a unit can get. So when I decide that I need to heal up my Homemasters of Sordith, I'm going to drop Earthblood on them and we'll see their green health bar gloriously rise, refilling those hit points that were once lost. And the regeneration points will start to go down because that's taking away from our limit. And there we go. That's healing, very simple in a nutshell. But beware, lest your healing be wasted. When a unit doesn't have a green full health bar, sometimes that is their new maximum health. This unit only has 66 elves left in it, so it cannot reach that full health bar ever again. Those elves are dead. If you use healing on a unit that's already maxed out on health, you can see they will not gain any more health. That green bar is not going up, even though Earthblood is on them. That's because 9 elves or 9 models are dead. Each individual model has its own health bar, so when a model dies, it takes its little health bar with it, taking away from the maximum total of the unit health bar. So when you're using these healing spells, you're actually just healing up all the little individual health bars of a unit. You could kinda check this by comparing the unit's health bar to how many models are left in the unit. If you've got 50% health and more than 50% models left, there's probably some good healing to be done. For the most part, any unit that's taken some damage will benefit from a healing spell, but only once. 2 healing spells in a row on the same unit is probably a waste, as you'll fill their maximum health and then you won't get any benefit from the healing like I just demonstrated. So remember, full maximum health of a unit is not always a full green bar. It's connected to how many models are left alive in the unit. Now to talk about regeneration. Units that are constantly healing themselves because of their regeneration ability, which often comes with a fire weakness. But regenerating units will constantly regain health until they run out of regeneration points, which is represented by this little white line on the health bar. That's how much healing it has left. This Varghulf has 1400 points of healing left that it can use, and that'll take it up to that white line, which gives you a mostly full health Varghulf again, which could be far more effective than a low health Varghulf. So don't be afraid to pull these units out of combat and just let them regenerate. However, important side note, these units can be healed by Invocation of Nehek if you're the vampires, but it's kinda pointless, because you're wasting that regeneration on a unit that's going to regenerate anyway. The white bar isn't going anywhere, it's just making the healing go up faster. It's not adding health to its bar, it's just giving it back what it's lost. So unless it's an emergency and that unit's about to die and it needs some health, Don't waste your healing spells on regenerating units. Use it on units that don't regenerate. Now to a little bit about the spells. So, if we're looking to heal with Earthblood, we can cast it on a single unit and it'll do them and anyone in the radius fine. But sometimes this area might not be effective, so if you hold the Alt key, you can move the area around freely and plant it where you want it, which is usually more effective for getting more units healed. So that's Earthblood, the spell that can heal multiple units. Our other spell is Regrowth. This will heal a single unit and also give them back their vigor. So you can only cast it on one unit, no alting to get multiple units with this, it's just for a single target. Both these spells can be overcast for more healing, but do be careful of blowing your wizard up like so. But remember, be aware of your health bar maxing out. The overcast might be a waste, unless it's on a single model unit, like a lord, hero, dragon, giant, etc. Because they only have one health bar, which we know can regenerate as long as they've got some regeneration points left. Now, for another side note, this time about Earthblood and its AoE area. When you cast this spell, how much of the unit has to be in the circle for it to get healed? Well, if we did the spell on the unit here, it would get this one, but it's only touching the edge of another one. Moving up to here gets us about 40% of the second unit covered. If we put it here, it's 60% of the unit covered. So let's see what happens when we do it at 40. Boom. Only the one unit is getting healed. The second unit that was 40% covered did not get healed. Not enough of the unit was covered by the AoE. So if we try again, we just did it about here, 40%. Now let's do it at about 60%, and we shall see that both units will get the healing. So it's safe to assume that about 50% of the unit needs to be covered in order for them to get the effect of the healing. So keep that in mind to make the most of that AoE spell. With this in mind, we can of course move things into the spell to make the most of it. Here we could have a little cavalry contingent that we're running around and all healing together, but we can't heal them when they're all spread out like this. So we'll move one unit closer to the other two, and then we can heal them all together to get the maximum healing output. Because they'll all be healed the same, it doesn't get split between the units or anything. They'll all gain a few hundred health. So hopefully all of that gives you a decent idea on how healing works, but then we have to answer the important question of who should I heal? Well, that's probably going to be your most expensive units is the obvious answer. In the Empire here, I've got great swords on the front line. Keeping your front line intact is important, so using it on those great swords could be a good call. I've got some halberdiers here, they could also be important. Depending on what the enemy has, if their army doesn't have a lot of large, then they may not need healing so much. And then I've got some cheaper spearmen who are cheaper and not so good, so maybe it's not worth wasting the healing on them. And then I've got the Altdorf Griffites who are of course fantastic, so definitely they would be a worthy target of some healing. And then I've got missile units and artillery who probably aren't worth it either, because even if their models are alive, they can still function even with a little bit of health. They don't have to fight in combat. So when we move up towards the enemy, we want to think about this and keep an eye on what we need to keep alive. In this situation, I want to keep this front line intact, but it's struggling a little bit, so I'm going to look for a healing opportunity. These greatswords here would only be hitting one unit really. I see these on the right. I'm going to hit some halberds, some greatswords, and my demigryphs, so that's a good call. And then I'm going to use regrowth on these greatswords in the front who are taking the brunt of the attack. So all of those units that I healed there were some of my more important units. I've got these demigryphs on the right, so they've taken a bit of a hammering from fighting trolls and Forsaken, so they're going to need some healing in a minute. I'm going to keep them out of the way until my healing spells have come off cooldown, and then again we can try and look for those effective heals. Here I've got some hammer and anvil with both of my demigryph units, which is a horrible thing to be hammered between. I've got my griffites and my demigryphs, going to get Earthblood going on both of those. That's healing up two powerful units, making the most of that healing. I probably could have got my Lord there as well if I was paying a bit more attention, but hey, still good heals. So make sure you look out for your powerful units, the ones that are going to keep your army fighting and could make the difference as the battle wears on. Putting it on cheap spearmen or cheap goblins or cheap chaos marauders, well, they're not going to do a lot with an extra 300 health. Demigryphs just might. And just for another example, this time with Bretonia. I've got a front line of men-at-arms. They're not great, but they are my front line, so they might need some healing, but to be honest, they're probably not going to do a lot either way. Depends on the enemy front line. Then I've got some strong cavalry out on the flank. These of course are a good target for my healing because they are very powerful and very important, and if I keep them together I can heal them all up. I've got foot squires here, only the one unit, so they could be important to keep alive if they have some armor piercing. I've got some peasant mob who should never ever be healed, and then my lord is Luen Leoncoeur, who of course can regenerate, so no point healing him, just keep him out the way if he gets a bit damaged. So as the battle wears on, I'm going to look for that healing on my important units. I've got some cavalry a little bit wounded here, so I'm going to drop it on them, heal them up. I'm also going to get the halberds in there. And I think I managed to get a cavalry that didn't really need healing, but hey ho, they got in there. Then I'm going to send these units in, and because they're healed, they're at full health, they're operating at maximum capacity, maximum power, maximum death and destruction for this cavalry. So it's about healing up those units that can make the most of it. Sometimes though, you may be better off healing just a large clump of troops even if they're weaker, because healing 4 or 5 units might be better than healing 1 or 2, depending on the units. I'm looking at you, peasant mob, you are not worth it. You'd be better off healing 1 unit of Grail Knights rather than 10 units of peasant mob. Anyway, I don't know why I have such a hate for peasant mob in this video, but there you go. So hopefully this gives you an idea on how to heal, who to heal, and when to heal. There are other healing options outside of the Lore of Life spellbook, such as Alariel with her Star of Avalorn, the Lizard Men with their Revivification Crystal Bastiladon, and Vampire Corpse Carts, to name a few. So, heal the strong units and keep them alive, and let the weak units die? I guess that's what I'm essentially saying in half of this video. I didn't realise I was saying that. Sorry weak units, you're just not good enough. Hope you've enjoyed this. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the future.